Greetings all, I'm Erin Mills, and welcome to Legacy of the Pink Panther, a 12-part retrospective looking at the films and cartoons of the Pink Panther franchise. Every month for the next year, we'll be taking a look at one of the 11 movies that comprise the series of films to date, as well as a special episode detailing the history and impact of the series' biggest breakout star, the Pink Panther cartoon character himself. Now, I said this is a retrospective, which means I'll be doing all the usual review type stuff. I'll be talking about behind the scenes things, making riffs on the movies, and recapping them in their entirety. But I'll also be sharing with you some of my favorite scenes, bits, talking about some of my favorite actors in the series, as well as any other information that I think you might find interesting. Now, why am I doing this? Well, one of the reasons is that these movies influenced me greatly. In fact, these movies were part of the reason why I decided I wanted to entertain people. I had my first exposure to the Pink Panther through the cartoons, much like many people my age. But as I grew older, I got interested in the movies. And by older, I mean age 8. By age 8, I was already developing my taste for mystery and crime stories. Mix that with comedy, and I was in heaven. On top of that, I think my local video store must have earned about $5,000 over all the years they were in business from me renting those movies over and over and over again. For my 5th grade Halloween costume, I went as Inspector Clouseau, and I was able to do Peter Sellers' Clouseau voice as well as any 11-year-old prepubescent could. It amused people, and I like knowing that I amused them, and that kind of sent me on a road trying to amuse people for a living. Didn't really pan out the way I expected, but you know what? I still get to do all these videos, and I think it's time to go back to where it all started. Because, and if you'll forgive me for sounding like the on-the-cusp of 40 aging geek that I am, they really don't make them like this anymore. Not even in the context of their own franchise. The Pink Panther was the brainchild of director Blake Edwards, who had started in television but quickly gained prominence in Hollywood with several high-profile films like Operation Petticoat, Breakfast at Tiffany's, and Days of Wine and Roses. As he often told the story, screenwriter Maurice Richland came to him with the idea of a movie about a witty, urbane jewel thief who just happens to be having an affair with the wife of the police officer in charge of capturing him. David Niven was cast as the jewel thief and Peter Ustinov as the police officer, with Ava Gardner as the officer's wife. But as we all know, things did not turn out as expected. Ava Gardner dropped out of the project, and Ustinov followed shortly thereafter. However, this opened the door to a casting decision that would elevate this mildly amusing caper comedy to one of the most successful film franchises of all time. This allowed Peter Sellers to be cast in the role of Inspector Jacques Clouseau. And as filming progressed, Edwards noticed that Sellers was not only stealing every scene he was in, he was stealing the whole movie. In fact, at the Academy Awards after the movie was released, David Niven requested that the Pink Panther theme not be played as he went to present because, quote, "it wasn't my movie," unquote. So, with all that in mind, let's go back to where it all began with Blake Edwards' original 1963 classic, The Pink Panther. The film opens in the fictional Middle Eastern country of Lugash, which will become more prominent in future films in the series. And you may notice something. You'll notice that Hollywood in the early 60s really did not give a crap about representing other world cultures accurately. See, while Lugash is meant to be a Middle Eastern country, here the set design, the costume pieces, and even some of the dialogue seems to reflect more of India rather than a Middle Eastern country like Iran or Saudi Arabia. Now, this sort of ethnic oversight would eventually be corrected down the line. Where down the line means 3 movies and 12 years later. In any event, here we see the Shah of Lugash being presented with one of the country's most valued treasures, a large diamond known as the Pink Panther, so named for its rather unusual flaw.
As in every stone of this size, there is a flaw.
A flaw? The slightest flaw, Your Excellency.
If you look deep into the stone, you will perceive the tiniest discoloration. It resembles an animal.
An animal?
A leaping panther.
Yes, a pink panther.
The Shah shows the diamond to his daughter, Princess Dala, and drapes it around her neck. This leads into the opening credits and, of course, the first appearance of the series' breakout star and its equally famous theme song. I'm not going to spend too much time here on the opening credits, as I'm going to be talking about the Pink Panther animated character later in this series, and I'll be covering all the opening sequences there. Suffice it to say for now that at the premiere of the Pink Panther, after these credits played, they got a standing ovation. Truly, a star was born that day. Returning from the credits, we are treated to a round-the-world tour. First, in Rome, we get our first look at the jewel thief known as the Phantom, so named because he always leaves a white monogrammed glove at the scene of each heist as his calling card. The police arrive as he's finishing up his latest heist, and he makes his escape with his usual panache. From there, we go to Hollywood, where we meet George Litton, played by Robert Wagner, who is graduating from college.
Okay. Thanks a lot, fellas. Don't forget to take the wardrobe back. Okay.
Or possibly not.
You can't rush a genius. I rush.
As we'll see, George hasn't been going to college at all. Instead, he's been living the Hollywood lifestyle on a stipend provided to him by his uncle, Sir Charles Litton, whom we will meet in a few minutes. In the meantime, George has also been up to, shall we say, a few less than ethical business dealings of late.
Can I help you?
Where is he?
Where's who?
You know who, George Litton. He owes me 40 grand and nobody welches on Big Joe.
Now look, Big Joe, I'm not a bill collector, I'm a photographer. I just took his picture.
What kind of a picture?
Graduation picture.
His what?
Graduation.
Got him!
From there, we go to Paris, where a shady man meets a mysterious woman. The man turns out to be a fence, and the woman is apparently an agent for the Phantom. And after a thrilling police foot chase, we discover that the woman has another identity as well.
Come on. Put on, madame. She's going down. Come on.
And from here, we meet the man in charge of the case, the dogged, determined, and outright incompetent Inspector Jacques Clouseau. Well, as of right now in the series, maybe not incompetent.
We must find that woman.
Okay, maybe not completely incompetent.
What was that, what you say?
We don't have much of a description. About 5'7", black hair, wearing a light beige coat.
The fools let that fence escape. He might have talked.
We will catch him.
We must. We must find that woman. She is our first positive link with the Phantom. Yes?
Your wife to see you, Inspector.
Send her in, please. All right, Henri, that will be all.
Hello, my darling.
My angel.
Yep, the woman who is the Phantom's accomplice is none other than Clouseau's wife, Simone, as played by actress model Capucine. But our world tour isn't quite finished yet. From this reveal, we're off to Cortina d'Ampezzo in the Southern Alps, located in northern Italy. I'm sorry, my compass appears to be playing hell again. where it just so happens a now all-grown-up Princess Dalla, played by Claudia Cardinal, is vacationing. She's also being followed by the aforementioned Sir Charles Litton, played by David Niven. As it turns out, there appears to be some unrest in Lugash over the ownership of the Pink Panther, as seen in the newspaper, while Dalla ignores the over-the-phone gushing of one Angela Dunning, who, as we shall see, hosts lavish parties where the Phantom selects his targets. Speaking of which, Sir Charles attends one of these parties that evening and throws a room key into the snow outside, where it's retrieved by the same accomplice we saw helping the Phantom a few minutes ago. Proving to the audience, as later films in the series love to repeat, that Sir Charles Litton and the notorious Phantom are one and the same. The following day, Sir Charles enacts his plan to get close to the princess. Step 1, introduce himself. Step 2, have his accomplice kidnap the princess's dog. Step 3, become too focused on catching up with the sleigh and head off a large mogul too fast and break his leg. And step 4, profit? After an appropriately awkward meeting with Sir Charles in the lobby, Clouseau and Simone arrive to check into the resort. In their room, Clouseau attempts to romance his wife. Emphasis on attempts.
Excuse me, please.
You know that you're really amazing.
So you've said.
How you can manage on a police inspector's salary? I ask you, how many women could save enough out of their housekeeping to buy such a beautiful mink coat as this?
Well, it's not easy.
You are a constant and desirable contradiction.
Oh, I'm simply a woman in love, my darling.
In one of the more amusing and accurate reviews of this film, one critic for the Hollywood trade paper summed it up this way: "The Pink Panther is a sex comedy where none of the characters get to have any." This goes double for Clouseau. And as it turns out, the Clouseaus are in the room adjoining Sir Charles, whose leg is apparently just fine. Dalla's manservant arrives and invites Sir Charles to have dinner with the princess. Meanwhile, Clouseau meets with the hotel manager and Mr. Tucker of Lloyd's of London to plan their strategy to capture the Phantom.
Buongiorno. Oh, anyway, I understand you already know Signor Tucker from Lloyd's of London.
Hello again. Hello, old bean. Your company insures the Pink Panther.
Yes, for £500,000.
Pounds?
Sterling.
The Phantom could not resist such a prize as the Pink Panther. He will most certainly make an attempt. But when he does, I shall be waiting for him. Excuse me.
If I understand your theory, gentlemen, the Phantom is one of Miss Dunning's guests.
That is the theory, yes. I would like to have from you the names of those guests, also the locations of their rooms.
Of course.
I assume that the Princess Dalla has the jewel with her.
She'd only tell me it was in a safe place. I suppose if it isn't here, it's at her villa in Rome.
My men are watching that villa.
Oh, with such foresight and planning, how can the Phantom succeed?
With such foresight and planning, he's already succeeded for 20 years. It's a great mistake to underestimate him, as the inspector can tell you.
The shrewdest, cleverest, most ingenious criminal in all the world.
And you have never even seen him?
Well, I've seen him once. 5 years ago, got a fleeting glimpse. Excuse me. Got a fleeting glimpse of him as he made his getaway. In a strange way, you know, one has to admire this man. He's, how would you say, a unique flair for the dramatic. He actually waved goodbye to me.
Sir Charles arrives for dinner and begins his attempts to seduce Dalla in order to ascertain where she's hiding the Pink Panther. But things don't quite go as he planned.
Not often I have the chance to dine alone with a beautiful princess.
I hate to disappoint you, Sir Charles, but I'm afraid this isn't the night.
But I understood that...
Oh, we're having dinner, but not alone.
At last, hello! We've been through icicles after all, you know what? Oh, Your Highness, I think it's just too darling of you to invite me here tonight. You just made Cortina for me. Hello.
And while Sir Charles suffers through dinner, George arrives in Cortina, which proves to be a surprise for Simone.
Oh, thank you. My pleasure.
Thank you very much.
Say, I'm looking for my uncle, Sir Charles Litton.
Darling.
May I get you some water?
Hold your hands over your head. Yes, my darling, and bend forward.
Oh, darling.
It also proves that Peter Sellers isn't the only master of physical comedy in this film. At dinner, Angela Dunning insists on throwing Dalla a party, which Dalla agrees to, if not enthusiastically. The evening then turns to good-natured ribbing of Sir Charles.
Now, Charles, on the other hand, drives a Ferrari enters with a key and resorts to collective bargaining.
But they both have something in common.
And what's that, Your Highness?
Maybe it's best forgotten.
Oh, don't be silly. Charles doesn't mind. Everyone takes a pot shot at Charles sooner or later.
Go ahead, ma'am. Shoot.
Well, it seems to me, any middle-aged bachelor who has never desired the basic rewards of wife and family and finds it necessary to occupy the major portion of his life, making one conquest after another, is trying to prove something that he can never possibly prove.
And what's that?
That he's a man.
Wow, you're joking.
It's somewhat complicated, but basically sound.
Shortly after this, however, Sir Charles spots Simone waving at him from outside the window and makes an excuse to leave, giving the impression that Dalla has offended him with her remarks. But when he goes outside, Simone is nowhere to be found. As it turns out, she's back in the room with Clouseau. Simone sends Clouseau out to get some more milk and enters Sir Charles's room. However, when she climbs into the bed, she discovers rather than Sir Charles, it's George. In a panic, Simone claims she came looking for George and kisses him before dashing out of the room. Clouseau returns, as does Sir Charles, who receives a call from the princess to apologize. Sir Charles invites her to his room, which she accepts, as well as accepting a couple of drinks when she arrives.
I was 3 years old when I rode my first elephant. I was 6 when I went on my first safari. Frazari. Wild animal hunt. And I was 10 when I bagged my first tiger. But I'll never forget my lovely little pony.
When did you bag him?
Oh, you're making fun again. You really don't like animals. Don't trust a man who doesn't care about animals. And don't trust an animal who doesn't care about people.
You may have noticed something kind of unusual about this particular film in comparison to all the others in the series, in that Clouseau is honestly not our main character. If anything, he's the antagonist. Our actual main character is Sir Charles, whom we're following in his attempts to find and steal the Pink Panther. It wasn't until Peter Sellers was cast as Clouseau and began to steal the entire movie that Blake Edwards got even the slightest inkling of what was to come. However, that really wouldn't blossom as a concept until the second film in the series, so let's not get ahead of ourselves. Sir Charles's attempt to seduce Dalla doesn't quite work out when she passes out due to inexperience with alcohol. He drags her into the bedroom and encounters George when they have to work together to get Dalla onto the bed. The next morning, Simone and Sir Charles are finally able to compare notes.
I was trying to explain to you at the window.
What happened to you?
Jacques, he found me and dragged me back to the hotel.
I looked everywhere for you.
Well, I looked everywhere for you. In fact, I nearly climbed in bed with your nephew.
You what?
Don't worry, I took care of it.
Well, he had kind of a heavy night. I almost put the princess in bed with him.
Really?
What you got there?
A note, Uncle Charles. Dear Uncle Charles, don't worry about a thing. I've gone to see the princess to apologize for last night.
Apologize for what? Nothing happened.
It must have been rather embarrassing, expecting to end up with one man.
She didn't expect to wind up with anybody. She just had a couple of glasses of champagne and had to rest a while.
I really don't know what I'm going to do yet. I might even go back to college and get my doctorate. But I'm torn. I feel there's so many things to be done in the world, so many backward countries where I might be useful. I've even been considering the Peace Corps.
Do you smell something? But before he can get too far with Dalla, Sir Charles and Simone show up. Simone takes George skiing while Sir Charles gets back to work on the princess.
That was champagne, nothing more.
Well, whatever it was very interesting.
I really don't remember.
Oh, come on now, that's such an awful old cliche. I don't remember.
It's true.
You know, the majority of women, they have half a glass too much and let down the barriers a little. Then they wake up in the morning riddled with guilt and think they can reclaim their virtue by saying, I don't remember.
Are you saying my virtue is not intact?
You know it is.
Then why should I feel guilty?
Well, you're not concerned about what happened. You're worried about what might have happened. That makes you vulnerable. That makes you a woman.
You're an arrogant fool.
Perhaps I am. But after what I just said, a real woman would have slapped my face.
Now that is a quality face right there.
Now, the least you can do is let me take you to the station.
All right.
You really have to go, though.
Yes, I must go.
Oh, that's too bad. Nothing I can say to make you stay?
Nothing.
What time do you have to be there?
3 o'clock.
3 o'clock. On the dot. I'll be here.
Later at the train, Sir Charles puts the second half of his kidnapping plan into action. As he says goodbye to Dalla, his accomplice drives past the station, prompting Sir Charles to chase him down in a sleigh. The two fake a fistfight, allowing Sir Charles to rescue Dalla's dog, which has an unexpected wrinkle.
She's got the dog. I will see you later.
This causes Dalla to change her plans to leave. And it also causes Blake Edwards to decide to put in a musical number.
Meglio stasera che domani, oh my. Domani chi lo sa, quel che sarà. Non mi dire d'aspettare il domani che verrà. È una porta che tu chiudi fra me e te.
This song serves absolutely no purpose to the plot. The singer, Fran Jeffries, is not a named character and is never seen again after this number. In fact, in the 2004 release of the film on DVD, Blake Edwards commented that he honestly could not remember why he decided to bring the movie to a halt for this sequence. But in all honesty, it's a fun little number, and Peter Sellers gets a few funny bits near the end. It doesn't forward the plot, but it's an amusing distraction. Following this, Clouseau theorizes about the Phantom.
Different and unique, classic in its conception.
But I thought you were working on the theory that he does repeat himself.
Well, only as far as Angela Dunning's plot is concerned. However, there is one other duplication, but that is his trademark, his calling card, so to speak. He always leaves a white monogrammed glove.
Sounds terribly theatrical.
You know, Your Highness, if I were the Phantom, I'd have chosen my victim already.
Really? And who would that be?
Well, who owns the most fabulous diamond in the world?
I suppose I do.
Exactly, the Pink Panther. Such a prize he could never resist. He would be bound to try for it.
I'm afraid he'd be disappointed. The Pink Panther is in my safe at...
Your Highness, please, don't say it, not here.
If I'm not being too nosy, Your Highness, I read somewhere that there was some dispute over the ownership of the Pink Panther.
It belongs to me. It was a gift from my late father. I shall never surrender it.
Why should you?
When the present government seized power, they claimed the diamond was the property of the people. There's even some talk of the International Court deciding the issue.
I tell you what, why don't I steal the diamond, leave that old glove or whatever it is behind, and you and I can split the insurance.
All right.
What follows this scene is a very lengthy but hilarious sequence of classic 60s bedroom comedy antics. However, in terms of plot, well, there's not a lot that moves it forward except for a couple of key moments. So in the interest of time, I'm just going to summarize what happens really quickly. Clouseau starts to take a shower but gets a phone call, which is from George, sending Clouseau on a wild goose chase to the village of Brunico, which is 30 miles away. After he leaves, Simone brings Sir Charles into the room. After a few doubts about continuing the heist and Simone insinuating that Sir Charles may be becoming fond of the princess, there's a knock on the door, supposedly from room service. Sir Charles goes to leave but finds the connecting door locked. It turns out that room service is actually George, who once again tries to seduce Simone, while Sir Charles hides under the bed. Unfortunately for George, Clouseau happens to return. George quickly hides in the bathroom, and Clouseau reveals that he passed the prefect of police on the road, whom George was impersonating on the phone. After several more bits of shtick, the manager calls to inform Clouseau that Dalla has checked out of the resort. More shtick happens as Simone tries to get Sir Charles and George out of the room before Clouseau notices. After George hides under the bed, Clouseau gets suspicious of the wet footprints on the carpet, but Simone distracts him long enough for both George and Sir Charles to escape. George gets back to Sir Charles's room first and intercepts a phone call from Sir Charles's accomplice.
Yes? I just arrived in town. No trouble with the police yet. But I understand the princess is expecting some important visitors here tomorrow. She say anything about leaving?
Who is this?
Charles.
And of course, this discovery gives George an idea of his own on how to solve his financial problems. George takes his uncle's tools, while Sir Charles takes a tumble off his balcony into a handy snowdrift. George leaves the resort, and meanwhile, another phone call interrupts Clouseau's latest attempt to romance Simone.
Yes! Oh, Tucker here, Inspector. The man who kidnapped the dog was driving a rented car. He's been identified as a man named Artoff. Now, London informs us that a man of his description is at present employed by Sir Charles Litton.
I see. Come up immediately. Sir Charles.
Sir Charles?
The Phantom. I've really got him this time. Oh,
Clouseau rushes to Sir Charles's room to meet with Tucker. Sir Charles himself narrowly avoids being arrested and rushes to Simone for help.
Somebody else. George has got my do-it-yourself phantom kit. I gotta get out of here.
He's gone.
What's gone?
My coat. My Sûreté Scotland Yard tag Macintosh. It's gone.
Good evening, Inspector.
And so we leave Cortina and the action moves to Princess Dalla's villa in Rome. Clouseau visits her there, informs her of Sir Charles's identity, and states a request that he would like to have plainclothes police officers in disguise at her party that night, which is being thrown by Angela Dunning. But it would seem that the princess has a few plans of her own.
The plans will have to be changed.
No. We just have to make sure that Sir Charles doesn't steal the jewel.
As it turns out, Dalla's party is a costume party and everyone will be in attendance. Most importantly, 2 guests in gorilla costumes.
What are you doing?
The question is, what are you doing?
I protest.
Remove your head at once. Tucker, remove his head. Ah!
Oh, good grief. It's our ambassador.
Ambassador?
My apologies, Lord Cravenwood. The inspector was only acting with the best of motives.
Your Highness.
Oh, really, Lord Cravenwood, what would your wife think?
What's he got that I haven't got?
George!
In the flesh.
What are you doing here?
Tarzan let me use the car tonight.
Outside, Artoff distracts the guards, allowing Sir Charles to sneak inside the villa. Meanwhile, George gets his stolen tools and begins looking for the safe while Sir Charles breaks into the house proper. While on the party floor, Dalla and her manservant exchange significant looks. Sir Charles then has an encounter with Lord Cravenwood, and then all hell breaks loose.
Tucker! What kind of a candle is this?
During the chaos, Sir Charles swipes Lord Cravenwood's gorilla costume and both he and George attempt to rob the safe, but they make an unexpected and kind of unnerving discovery.
George?
Uncle Charles?
Have you got it?
No, haven't you?
No, the safe's empty.
What's that?
Somebody's been highly dishonest.
Now, the obligatory car chase. So, to recap, we have 2 guys in gorilla suits driving convertibles, being chased by a knight, a jester, and a policeman in a jeep, who in turn are also being assisted by 2 officers in a zebra costume running amok in the streets of Rome. This is only the beginning of the craziness this franchise will unleash before we're done. Ultimately, this all results in a massive 4-car pileup, which leads to Sir Charles and George's arrest, and it seems almost certain conviction for the theft of the Pink Panther. Or does it?
You've had it all the time. You stole the jewel yourself before the International Court made its decision.
I'd gladly sacrifice it to save Charles. But it's not so simple.
Couldn't you say you just found it on the grounds or something?
They just claim he dropped it making his escape. No. To save Charles, we must prove that someone else stole it.
But we'd never be able to do that.
I have an idea.
$30,000 out of the housekeeping money.
Yeah, we've been married for 10 years.
About the time that these robberies began and the notorious Phantom came into existence, correct?
Yes. No, not correct. Of course not correct. Of course. Oh, yeah. Wait. You see...
It's not Sir Charles. He must be the Phantom. It must be the inspector. But I just can't believe that. He's not... I refuse to...
9.
It's not Sir Charles.
Now freed, Sir Charles, Simone, and George meet up after the trial.
Thank you, darling.
Find a princess.
Look at that.
You're wrong. I'm not the Phantom. No, not the Phantom.
We can't just let him rot in prison.
Oh, it takes years for people to rot. Besides, when the Phantom strikes again, the inspector will be as free as a bird. Want to come to South America, George? Family rates?
I wouldn't miss it, Uncle Charles.
That's good. And who knows, when I retire, you might take over the business.
And so the film comes to an end with Clouseau being taken to prison, his career and marriage presumably in shambles. But as we know, that was not the last we would see of Inspector Clouseau. The Pink Panther was an unqualified success, making over $10 million upon release. This equates to about $77 million today. This would also launch Peter Sellers' major movie career, so much so that he became the face of the series from this point on. And while the character of Sir Charles Litton would return a few years later, David Niven himself wouldn't return to the role for nearly 20 years. If you've never seen the original Pink Panther, you owe it to yourself to do so. It's a surprisingly low-key, witty film with notes of the unique slapstick that would come to define the series further down the road. As it turned out, however, the next film in the series wasn't actually meant to be the next film in the series. But as we'll see, it quickly became that way and led to what many critics believe to be the best movie in the entire Pink Panther franchise. So join me again next time as we see the return of Inspector Clouseau to the police force and see how well he handles both the murder investigation and newfound romance in A Shot in the Dark. I'm Erin Mills. Join me next month as we continue our look at the legacy of the Pink Panther.